Andrew Lawrence is on tour, and one of his tour dates is in Swindon on the 21st of July, which we are going to be attending. And we think you should as well, because I've attended literally all of his Swindon tour dates to this point, back after he was cancelled, and he's very, very funny. So you should definitely go and see those. So anyway, let's begin. So you may be aware, I'm sure you've probably seen this, is BBC's Verify service, where they were going to spend their time debunking conspiracy theories on the internet and putting out true information, because God forbid there's enough false information out there. And if there's one place you can trust for the truth, it's the BBC. Isn't that right?
Yeah, it's an interesting move given their reputation of recent years. It's interesting. They seem to think they're such a trusted institution that they can appoint themselves as the arbiters of truth. That's fascinating. It doesn't speak highly of their self-awareness, really. But let them go for it. It's bound to create wonderful entertainment value.
Although there is that. But before we begin, if you want to support us, because of course we've been demonetized, go to lotus.com, sign up, and go and check out Josh's latest contemplations about Victorian values, which I find fascinating, because this is, of course, at the height of empire, and he's been going through various pieces of literature through the time where they explain how things should be, and it's just very interesting how wildly different to us they actually are in the way that they think. Anyway, so previously we have covered the BBC's Disinformation service, and I love that they call it the Disinformation. I mean,
yeah, it's one of those words that sets off alarm bells, isn't it? It's
yeah.
So, okay, so you're in a certain club if you're chucking around words like that, aren't you? Okay.
I mean, the fact that her job title is literally Disinformation Specialist. It's like,
specialist. Wow. I wonder what level of training and how many years of specialist training she's had to.
But would you want your job title to be Disinformation Specialist? I'd rather, True Information Specialist, maybe.
Yeah.
Makes it sound like it's kind of the mask is off. But they promised to disinform people, and boy, did they deliver, because they dropped the first series of their podcast, Mariana in Conspiracy Land. Now, this is Mariana Spring, their disinformation specialist, who has done some roving reporting in Totnes.
Wow, okay.
Which is where all conspiracies begin, apparently. Yeah. And I listened to all of this series, and it's pretty much what you'd expect. There's a sort of way that a progressive will set up a narrative and essentially just cherry pick from a series of sources to present one interpretation. But if you actually watch or read all of the sources yourself, you probably come away with a different interpretation, right?
Sure.
And she spends her time in this mostly talking about a grassroots conspiracy paper called The Light. Now, I hadn't heard of this before. Have you heard of this?
No.
Well, apparently they've got quite a large readership, actually. Something like 100,000 copies a month or something they print.
Okay.
And so this goes quite far and wide. And she interviews, like I say, this is the typical way that progressives set up their narratives. So she interviews very kindly and favourably people that she likes and that support what she's trying to say, and is completely unquestioning about the things that they tell her. And then she refuses to accept anything that the people that she doesn't like say. So
Sure.
if they, say something that it may well come from like a government website, she'll just essentially say, no, that's wrong, without substantiating a point. And of course, she clips them at their worst in order to represent them as being as bad as they can be. In Totnes, incidentally, she was interviewing one lady conspiracy theorist who she ended up reducing to tears, which is like, right, that's not nice. But also, so she did an interview, a proper sit-down interview with a chap called Darren Nesbitt, who is the publisher of The Light. And he recorded it on his side, and you can go and watch that on Rumble as it is there. You just search for Mariana in Conspiracy Land, and you'll find that on Rumble. So I watched about 2/3 of this, because it's about 4 hours long. And he just comes across like a normal chap. He's just a normal bloke.
Yeah.
He's like, I'm a self-admitted conservative. I think there's some funny things going on, which a lot of people do, which we'll talk about in the second segment. But he just comes across like a normal guy. He's not like a raving lunatic. He hasn't got a Nazi armband on or anything like that. He's just like, look, I think we're being lied to.
Yeah, well, he's got some ideas that he wants to discuss in the public sphere that that there some people don't like, evidently.
Well, yeah, I mean, he turns up like, I think I'm being lied to. And she's like, well, hey, I'm from the BBC. So yeah,
Yeah.
that's why.
With
That's
the
why.
BBC, we'll let you know. We'll let you know what the lies are.
Yeah, and so like I
And
said,
trust us.
like trust old Auntie Beeb. She's never going to lead you wrong. Well, I watched the entire Mariana in Conspiracy Land, or I listened to it even, and in the very first episode, she started talking about me. Now, I probably wouldn't have covered this as an entire segment, and this does feel a little self-indulgent. But when BBC Radio 4 are going to start just publishing lies about you, and these are like genuine lies, these aren't just lies of interpretation, right?
Yeah.
When they actually start fabricating events that never happened and attribute them to you, then I mean, I feel I'm entitled to at least push back on that.
Yeah, you can't let it go because they do it to you. They do it to other people, and if no one pushes back, they keep doing it. So it's important. Yeah,
And
you know,
like
I
I
think
said,
you're fully entitled. Not, I wouldn't even say entitled. I think it's the right thing to do. You know, they want to put themselves out there as this organisation, a bastion of truth, and then they want to pursue an agenda and tell lies about people. They need to be called out on it.
I think so, and I think it's particularly ironic given the framing, right? Because if it was just a regular BBC article, I'd probably like don't care, you know.
Sure.
But this is a big production. She's spent a lot of time explaining, no, I'm anti-disinformation. I'm going to provide you with real facts, and then in the very first episode of this, starts spewing just things that aren't true. Let's watch this clip of where she's talking about me.
For Georgina and Ben, this paper from outside Totnes has been part of what has drawn people in the town towards a new way of thinking. They compared two separate visits from Carl Benjamin, a former UKIP candidate who ran a YouTube channel called Sargon of Akkad before it was suspended by the platform. He first appeared in Totnes with a former Breitbart editor, Milo Yiannopoulos, a man associated with the far right. At the time, a local group in Totnes condemned Benjamin's use of rape threats and racist tropes, as well as engagement with white supremacists.
Obviously, the whole of Totnes would have come out against them, which we did. It was a complete, old-fashioned standoff on the market square. We had sort of, Arkon Sakad and his mates who all looked quite heavy, sitting on one side and shouting about freedom of speech. And then the whole of Totnes, on the other side, shouting him to go away. A year after the pandemic, the same guy came back with another mate, and half the people who previously had stood up against him were now with him because they'd all been recruited into his way of thinking. So nothing was more important than freedom of speech. So suddenly, these guys who we had all at once, only a couple of years previously, absolutely understood as being on the wrong side, people were now slightly conflicted and standing with him and yelling at us. So for me, it's been a bit upsetting to have a town where hippies, who you thought were friends of yours, have crossed very quickly, with only the smallest of encouragement, over to the far right.
Georgina and Ben are worried that what the conspiracy theory media is doing is something akin to radicalisation, causing a committed minority to adopt radical positions on political or social issues based on disinformation.
That sounds like I did a good job in Totnes then, doesn't it?
It's pretty full on, isn't it? It's pretty. There's some very strong
Allegations and assertions.
assertions they're making about you, and it's all very black and white, isn't it?
I went there twice. I radicalised the town, and I led some sort of insurgency in Totnes. Georgina there is a councillor in Totnes.
Wow.
So this isn't even just some rando off the street who's making that allegation.
If she'd sort of played it down a bit and had some sort of balance in there and said anything vaguely neutral or positive about you, you might have been able to take it seriously. But it's so overtly a hit piece that it comes across as ludicrous.
I mean, I love the sinister music in the background. There's a ooh. And I can't believe they fat shamed my friends. Simon and Glyn, I'm sorry, you're going to have to go on keto, boys. Like, the big heavy guys, yeah. Simon knows it. Hey, I was heavy at the time too.
Well, I think the the intimation is that big, heavy, meaning they're intimidating. And
Yes.
I can assure viewers, I'm here in the office. I've seen everyone. It's not an intimidating bunch of people.
I don't think we are anyway, you know. But
I'm a small man. I'm you know, and I can honestly say I felt no intimidation.
I'm glad to hear that.
No offence, anyone, but
So I just thought I'd go through and just refute, because she made a bunch of concrete assertions about me that were just simply not true. And so I thought I'd just go through and refute them. The first one being that I was banned from YouTube. That's not true. If you can go to the next one, John. There's my YouTube channel. It's right there. You can click on any one of those videos and watch them. I don't know why she would say that. I don't know why she would say I was banned from YouTube when it's such an easily verifiable thing, right? Literally anyone with an internet connection can verify that. Secondly, anyone with an internet connection can verify that Milo Yiannopoulos was not with me at Totnes. I recorded the entire thing. If you go to the video of the event, that's the entire thing, the whole 4 hours there. And you can see that it's just me and my fat friends who apparently need to listen to these. Sorry, guys. But you can see that Milo isn't there, so I don't know why she would say that. It's just me talking to people, just very, very regularly. And there's Simon in the background being fat-shamed. Obviously, I've never sent a rape threat, which is why I have no criminal record. It's interesting that she, again, would say that, because that's a criminal offence. I don't have a criminal record. I've never been arrested. I've never seen the inside of a courtroom. I don't know what the process is, to be honest. I'm not, nor have I ever been a white supremacist or engaged with them. The only engagement I've had is to debate them, which I did a few years ago. If you just go, like, you know, this debate has actually been taken down. I don't know why, but I have debated against them. So there's that. But the most important one for me, that really bothered me, because okay, these are false statements, but they're false statements about the internet, right? It's just like, oh, well, his channel's taken down. So again, no, that's just not true, right? But what I find really interesting is normally when the BBC is going to lie to you, it's some kind of lie of omission, right? There'll be information about something, and they'll take one or two pieces and leave out key contextual other pieces that give you a false impression of that thing. So technically, they haven't lied, they haven't made up a fact about the world, and so you come away misinformed, but they can say, well, this is true, that is true, and that's all you need to know. Well, not this time. This is a very interesting thing, because I've never been back to Totnes. I've been there a grand total of once on that MEP tour, and so when she says, quote, on 2 separate occasions, that's a fabrication.
yeah.
She literally made that up. Now, don't get me wrong, it makes me sound awesome, right?
Yeah.
I went back there and half the town was on my side all of a sudden.
Sound like the Pied Piper of Totnes.
Exactly, right? Like, I mean, I wish I'd done that. Now I think about it, because maybe they would have been. But that's just not true. That's a total fever dream that has been made up by Mariana and
It's
the Green Council.
fear-mongering nonsense, isn't it?
But and the thing is, just ask yourself, well, where's the footage of it? Like, wouldn't there be footage if half the town was like up in arms against the other half of the town? There'd be some cell phones.
Well, the whole thing screams out sort of a mixture of laziness and vindictiveness, which is, you know.
But outright fabrication as well.
Yeah.
Like, literally fabricating an event. Like, tell me the date I went back. You know, I bet there's video footage of me like on the podcast that day or something like that. But what I like about this is at the end where she says, what the conspiracy theory media is doing is something akin to radicalization, causing a committed minority to adopt radical positions on political social issues based on disinformation. That's what she's doing right now.
Yeah.
She is literally trying to tell people, oh no, Totnes is a hive of radicalism, and therefore the very committed minority of progressives need to start doing something. And she's trying to make them think like they're living through some sort of civil war or something like that. It's like, that didn't happen. What are you talking about? You know, and again, it's not just misreporting, it's fabricating events, which is even worse in my opinion. Like, obviously lying by omission is bad, but at least you haven't made up a series of events. And there are a bunch of people who obviously believe this. Like, you got people like George Monbiot, Guardian columnist, bug-eyed communist, who just says, oh, brilliant series by Mariana Spring. centered on my hometown, which shows how many alternative types, well-meaning wellness practitioners and well-meaning hippies get sucked into far-right conspiracies. Yeah, but you're a communist loon. You would say that.
What I meant by that, it's a brilliant series. Said it told me exactly what I wanted to hear, reflected all my views back at me. Didn't really think much about how much of it was true or not, and what had been made up. But it's just nice to have my own vanity and ego massaged. It's good for you, George.
That is exactly right. That is exactly what they think. This is the Totnes councillor who lied about me, Georgina Allen. She was an ex-deputy mayor and a current Green councillor. And this is an extraordinary podcast. Though it doesn't show Totnes at its best, it's incredibly important the way it shines light into the darkest corners. You made up a story about me, Georgina. What was the date? Where's the footage? Where's the evidence that I've been back twice? It just didn't happen. You made that up. And then Mariana Spring, I imagine you made it up to her, and she just took it as read because, like you were saying, it's just reflecting the worldview back at them. And so, that's exactly what I want to hear, thinks Mariana. And therefore, the narrative continues, even though none of that's true. She is, if you go to the next one, you can see she's exactly the kind of person who would do this. Green District Councillor for Totnes and noted liar on the internet. Very interesting. And then you get a bunch of people congratulating her on her conspiracy theory. Like, as a former Totnes resident, I listened to this with my jaw on the floor. What a hero Totnes councillor Georgina Allen, is. She's calmly collecting evidence of right-wing conspirators manipulating and standing up to it. What?
Yeah, it's this very characteristic progressive thing of my values, my beliefs are absolute gospel, are the truth, and I'm going to say anything. The truth doesn't matter. I'll say anything to support my values and to further my, what I believe to be true. The truth is all relative. I'm just going to, it doesn't matter if I smear people and tell a bunch of very lazy and vindictive lies about them. It's, if it's all in support of the cause. Yeah, it's incredibly incredibly malevolent.
But this is what when she says, well, it's to radicalize a narrow band of political people based on disinformation. But here we go, a very progressive person who now believes things that aren't true and believes that there is, has become given the radical view that there's some sort of right-wing conspiracy going on in Totnes, which I'm sure it is really happening. And they just, again, these are people from Totnes, apparently. As a Totnesian myself, this podcast gets 1,000 out of 100. It's like, okay, but it wasn't true. And so there are a lot of people on the other side going, well, this BBC Verify thing really is just BBC Vilify, isn't it? Because that's really what it was all about.
Pretty much. But they get away with it because it's this dearth of critical thinking with people that they have their own views reflected back at them through a series of lies, vindictive lies, and that's fine for them. There's no that's all they want. People don't think for themselves. It's depressing, really.
And the thing is, they know that even if there was a portion of the audience that would fact check it, they don't have the access to the BBC as a platform to be able to disseminate that knowledge. And so they know that the vast majority of the audience will just not bother fact checking any of this. They won't go anywhere else to try and find any information about this, and they can now portray the people at the Light and myself and others as just being somehow evil people engaged in some sort of conspiracy to create a revolutionary cadre in Totnes. Of all the places to do it.
It's fairly unhinged, isn't it?
It is. People started mentioning this to Mariana, and she started blocking them.
Of course, yeah.
Because that's how you know they genuinely believe in what they're saying. When people are like, hang on, his channel isn't suspended. He didn't go to Totnes. I'm sure there are a bunch of things about the Light as well. I just don't know anything about that paper. But, I'm sure there's a bunch of things about that she said that weren't true either. And she's just like, yep, block, 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 block. And lots of people were saying, hang on, she's blocked me. Why has she blocked me? But anyway, this is something apparently other people, citizen journalists, as they call themselves, have caught her doing before. Like I said, I don't know anything about these particular cases. But to be honest with you, judging about the one case I do know about from Mariana's reporting, I'm not inclined to take her side and give her the benefit of the doubt on this one.
Yeah.
Weirdly enough.
Well, yeah, if it makes you feel better, it's not just you, Carl. If you listen to the BBC and you read things on their website, then you come across similar things all the time that strike you as very peculiar, very false, and slightly vindictive, and the people at the centre of them that they're targeting think, well, you just smeared someone there really because it suits your agenda. It's very tiring, really, but it's so transparent now. I think who buys into it anymore? I don't think you've got anything to worry about. I don't think really anyone who happened to listen to that, I don't think they're coming for you. I think you'll be all right.
I'm not too worried about them, but it's just nice that we have a very good example of the BBC's disinformation service just actively promoting disinformation on the very first episode. So I did actually put in a complaint with BBC and Ofcom, and I have received emails back from both of them, but I can't talk about any of that yet. So who knows where that goes. It would be very amusing if she gets her podcast taken down because of the disinformation she was spreading.
Thanks for watching that segment from the podcast of the Lotus Eaters. If you enjoyed that and want to find more, you can subscribe to the website for as little as £5 per month to get access to all of the premium videos we have on offer, including Beau's Epoch series, now at 110 episodes, the latest one where they're talking about the Anglo-Dutch wars with Carl. And if you want to keep up to date with what Beau is doing, you can follow him at Twitter, at HistoryBro1. Thank you and goodbye.